Okay, quick question. If I asked you right now out loud, how much debt do you have? You'd probably think about your credit card, maybe your student loans, maybe that car payment you're still annoyed about. But here's the thing. There's a whole category of debt that most people don't even count. It doesn't show up when you do that mental math. It doesn't feel like debt, it feels like shopping. I'm talking about buy now, pay later, Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, Sezzle, those four little payments that pop up at checkout like they're doing you a favor. And look, I need to say this clearly before we go any further. This isn't a video where I'm going to wag my finger at you for buying a hoodie in 4 installments. That's not the point. The point is that something is happening under the hood of this industry that almost nobody is talking about, and it is quietly reshaping how an entire generation relates to money. So let's get into it. Picture this. Her name's Mia, 26. Good job, decent apartment, doesn't consider herself bad with money. She's not maxing out credit cards at the mall like it's 2007. She's actually kind of proud of herself because she doesn't really use credit cards at all anymore. She's at checkout for a $220 pair of shoes, and there it is. Four payments of $55, zero interest, pay in four. She clicks it, barely thinks about it. It genuinely does not register in her brain as debt. It registers as a smart way to shop. 2 weeks later, groceries, same thing, split it. New phone case, a gift for her sister, concert tickets, split, split, split. And here's where it gets interesting. Because by month 3, Maya has 11 of these plans running at once, across 4 different apps. Nobody told her 11 was a number to worry about, because no single purchase ever felt big. It's death by $1,055 cuts. And this is not a Mia has bad self-control story. This is a the entire system was quietly built this way story. Stick with me. Let's talk about why this feels so different from a credit card, because the psychology here is genuinely fascinating. When you swipe a credit card, your brain, on some level, registers a loss. Behavioral economists call this payment pain, the small flinch your brain does when money leaves you. It's why studies on spending consistently show people spend more freely with cards than cash, because cash creates a visceral, physical pain of paying, and cards dull it. Buy now, pay later doesn't just dull that pain. It basically anesthetizes it completely. You're not handing over $220. You're handing over $55. Your brain does the math on the smaller number, not the real one. It's the same trick as seeing something priced at $19.99 instead of $20. Except here, the trick isn't 21 cents. It's the other 75% of the purchase, quietly deferred into a future you're not thinking about at checkout. And the apps know this. This is not an accident. This is the entire design. Here's a stat that should genuinely stop you for a second. A 2024 report from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that the 5 largest buy now, pay later lenders originated over 277 million loans in a single year, totaling more than $33 billion. In 2019, that number was basically a rounding error. This industry went from niche to mainstream in about 4 years, and it did it almost entirely by targeting people under 35. And separately, research from LendingTree found that nearly 40% of buy now, pay later users have made a late payment on one of these plans. 40%. That's not a small user error rate. That's a system where late payments are basically baked into the business model. Here's the part where I get a little frustrated, because this is the piece nobody explains clearly. You've probably heard, it's interest-free, so what's the harm? And on the surface, sure. A pay-in-4 plan technically doesn't charge interest if you pay on time. That part is true. But technically true is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Here's the actual mechanism. Miss a payment, and a lot of these platforms hit you with a flat late fee, often somewhere between $7 and $34, depending on the provider and your state. On a $55 installment, a $34 late fee is not a small penalty. That's effectively a 60% surcharge on that single payment. If you were paying that rate annualized, you'd be looking at something that rivals, sometimes exceeds, the worst credit card APRs on the market. Interest-free quietly becomes one of the most expensive ways to borrow money in the country, and it happens specifically to the people who can least afford the surprise. But the fees aren't even the scariest part. The scariest part is what I call the invisibility problem. Your credit card has one bill, one number, one app you can check that tells you the truth about your month. Buy now, pay later doesn't work like that. If you're like Mia, and you've got plans running across Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, and Sezzle, You don't have one bill. You have four separate, disconnected mini-budgets, each one convincing you individually that you can afford it, while collectively they're quietly draining your checking account on four different dates you're not tracking in your head. Think of it like a leaky pipe versus a burst pipe. A burst pipe you notice immediately, water everywhere. You fix it that day. A leaky pipe dripping slowly behind a wall? You don't notice until the damage is already done. Traditional debt is the burst pipe. It's loud. Buy now, pay later is the leak. It's the debt that doesn't feel like debt, precisely because it's engineered to stay quiet. And here's the reveal that I think most people genuinely don't know. Until relatively recently, most of these pay-in-4 plans didn't even show up on your credit report at all, which sounds like a win, right? No hit to your score. But flip that over for 1 second and think about what it actually means. It means you could be carrying real, recurring financial obligations, genuine monthly debt, completely invisible to any lender, any credit check, and honestly, invisible to yourself unless you're manually adding it up across 4 apps. You can look financially healthy on paper while your actual day-to-day cash flow is being strangled. That's not a hypothetical. That's the exact mechanism behind why so many people who don't have credit card debt still feel like they're drowning every single month and can't figure out why. That's the trap. Not one bad decision, a dozen tiny decisions, each one too small to trigger alarm, adding up to a financial picture nobody, not you, not a bank, not a credit score, can actually see clearly. So, what do you actually do with this? Because I'm not here to tell you to never use buy now, pay later again and act like that solves it. Let's be real about how to actually protect yourself. First, and this is non-negotiable, start keeping one single running list of every active buy now, pay later plan you have across every app in one place. Doesn't need to be fancy. Notes app, spreadsheet, whatever. The entire danger of this system is fragmentation. The fix is forcing it back into one view. If you can't tell me right now, off the top of your head, how many active plans you have and what your total remaining balance is across all of them, that's your sign you're already past the point where this feels manageable in your head alone. Second, treat any buy now, pay later payment exactly like you'd treat a bill, not like a checkout convenience. Before you click it, ask the boring, unsexy question. Does this installment already have a specific place in this month's budget, or am I just hoping my paycheck stretches? If it's the second one, that's your answer. Third, and this is the one people hate hearing, cap how many active plans you'll run at once. 2, maybe 3 max. Not because the math is different at plan number 4, but because past that point, you've lost the ability to track it in your head. And losing track is exactly the mechanism that gets people into trouble. This isn't a self-control problem, it's a visibility problem, and the fix is structural, not willpower. And fourth, if you're already in deep, if you're reading this list and quietly doing math in your head right now and the number is bigger than you want to admit, the move isn't shame, it's triage. List every plan, smallest balance to largest, and knock out the smallest one completely before adding anything new. Not because it saves the most money mathematically, but because closing one loop completely gives you back a real, felt sense of control, and that momentum is what actually gets people out, not a spreadsheet formula. Here's what I really want you to take from this. Buy now, pay later isn't evil. It's not a scam in the cartoonish sense, but it is a financial product engineered, very deliberately, to exploit the exact gap between what your brain registers as spending and what's actually legally a debt obligation. And an entire generation is walking around with real debt loads that don't feel real, because the entire system was built to make sure it doesn't feel real until the day it very suddenly does. You're not bad with money if this is you. You were up against a design team whose entire job was making $220 feel like $55. Now you know the mechanism. That's the whole game. Once you can see it, it stops working on you the same way. If this actually shifted how you think about that little 4 payments button, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the one credit score myth that's costing people thousands of dollars, and you genuinely do not want to miss it.